Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of 20 Questions with Scooter and our good friend, Mr. Steve Tucker, he of Morbid Angel. Good morning or good afternoon, Steve. How you doing?
Morning for me, man. I'm doing great. How you doing?
Morning for you. Okay, great. We're just going to dive right in with question number 1. Discuss your earliest musical memories.
My earliest musical memories would have been my mother's music. Early on, I can remember my mother listening to, everything that's old, that's great. I mean, everything from the Beatles, which may be shocking to people because I'm a metal guy, but I absolutely love the Beatles. I mean, and my mother listened to that from the time I was probably born until she still listens to it. You know, and I still listen to it, actually. And the late Beatles years, I guess the quote-unquote drug years, man, they were great. My mother listened to, like, Alice Cooper. She took me to a Alice Cooper concert at the age of 9, man, and that was pretty eye-opening. Kind of weird. Alice Cooper was in the midst of his recovery, so a lot of dancing whiskey bottles and shit like that on the stage. Kind of weird stuff for a kid, but at the same time, I think I got the theatrics of it, and I'd been listening to Alice Cooper in the background my entire life, so I knew every word to everything, and I still do. She listened to quite a bit of Southern rock. She listened to early AC/DC. I mean, I can remember being 7, maybe 8 years old and listening to High Voltage, and I mean, running around the house, oi, oi, fucking TNT, man. I love that shit as a kid, I mean, it was absolutely just brilliant. I mean, Black Sabbath, I mean, luckily, I was born to pretty young parents, and the musical influence was immediate. I mean, my mother, still to this day, she doesn't play, she can't carry a tune in a bucket, but she still loves music, and that influence, having that around me. As well, I had a family member who was a successful, musician, so therefore, music was just sort of part of our family, I guess, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, man.
Question number 2. Who or what compelled you to pick up a guitar?
Man, what compelled me to pick up a guitar, around that same period I was speaking of, 7 to 8, possibly 9 years old at the very oldest, I went to, at the time, stand-up video games, the quarter arcade games, man. They were the hottest thing in the world. I mean, there was only a few of them: Tempest, Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, this sort of thing. It was new, I was a kid. I'm old, man. I mean, I've been around a while. And this was, I guess, the late 70s. This would have been, the late 70s. And there was a local game room that a guy from the Middle East owned, man. And he was a really cool guy, man. He was just, seemed to be, I think, in a way ahead of the game, man. And he was smart enough to realize, that all these people coming in playing games might also like to see some live music. And the guy told me, come back at 3 o'clock and there's going to be a band here getting ready to play. So I came back to the game room at 3 o'clock. I don't know if I mentioned he owned the game room.
Oh, okay.
But I came back, and in the back room, man, I watched a band do a sound check, man. And like I said, I had a relative who played bass, and he was a singer, but he played with people like Pure Prairie League. His name was Roger Troy, and he had a thing called Jelly Roll, which you can still find that shit on YouTube, And I mean, he was sort of friends with the Goshorn brothers, the guys in Pure Prairie League, and they all grew up together and stuff. So, like I said, I'd been around music, but live music, as of yet, I hadn't seen. And when I walked into that game room, those guys played Paranoid as a sound check. And when they played Paranoid, I knew right then and there, man, I had to fucking do it. I knew I needed to play music because what was coming out of 4 people in front of me absolutely blew my mind, man. That to me was, I wanted to be a part of it. I'm not that band particularly, but I wanted to do that. I wanted to have other people, 3 or 4 other people, and us generate that sort of magic. To me, it just seemed like magic. It wasn't music. It wasn't what I heard on the radio. It wasn't what I heard coming out of the stereo at home. To me, it was complete magic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I wanted to be a part of that magic, man. So that's what got me into playing guitar.
That's cool. Early on, who was your main guitar influence?
Man, this is going to be funny, man, to a lot of people, but the guys in Lynyrd Skynyrd, man.
Yeah?
I would have to say, that's background music of my life. That's something my mother listened to. She listened to quite a bit of Southern rock. Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner, and later Rosington Collins and the Marshall Tucker band. Things like that, man. And dude, this guy's like playing harmonized solos and like Leonard Skinner, man, was all about, a solo between every single vocal line. You know what I mean? So, that really, to me, was like, how do they do that? That was to me, man, music was always this mystery. It was this magic, man. I don't know any other way to explain it, but for me, it was magic. And how did they make that magic intrigued me beyond anything else. It intrigued me more than science class and math class and maybe not more than history class, but it just intrigued me, man. You know what I mean? And the fact that, writing a song isn't just writing melodies or music, man. Then you've got the words, which all of a sudden, they tell a story, and that's more magic for me. Right. So to me, just making music as a whole just seemed like something I wanted to do, I wanted to be a part of. And Leonard Skinner guitar players, man, whatever it is to me now, what it was to me then is irreplaceable.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all of us are a product of what our parents were listening to.
Absolutely.
Either positively or negatively. You either embrace what they listen to and it becomes a part of your habits, through your life, or you're totally reactionary to what they listen to and you go the other direction.
And the same way, the negative of that would have been, at times, man, when my mom's friends, would come over and they would be drinking and partying a little bit, they listened to disco, and I hated that shit.
Oh, yeah.
I hated it, and then, to me, I started to associate it with obnoxious people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So disco for me was never
I associated it with out-of-work musicians.
Well, there you go, man.
Yeah, all right. Have you ever been influenced by non-guitar music? In other words, bands or musicians who don't play guitars, or they don't have any guitars whatsoever. Has any of that kind of music influenced you?
I really, when I was young, man, they put me through all this testing because I have a really high IQ. And I got put through all this testing, and in the end, they ended up putting me in these special advanced classes and part of an arts program. And through that program, I was exposed to the symphony, I was exposed to the ballet, and I was exposed to a lot of different musical arts. Some visual arts, but mostly musical arts. And going to the symphony for me was, again, that was magic, man. I couldn't comprehend how the people in the pit in front of me were making that big of a sound.
Yeah.
And making the layers and the way they set up in the orchestra box, the natural panning of things, the cellos here and the violins here, and the way they come together and the drama caused by all that. Yeah, man, I was influenced by that every bit as much as I was influenced by the music that was around me when I was from my mother.
From your
mother. What I mean? When I was around my mother. But to be honest with you, it was more powerful. I would have to say, listening to rock and roll, man, that was like, okay, that's a piece of this. Yeah, I hear the elements, man. I still to this day, to me, metal is the closest thing to orchestrated music that you can find on the planet these days,
I would agree with that.
Besides orchestrated music.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And
particularly your style of metal.
Yeah, I think death metal, man, purely is influenced. A lot of the flows of the things we do. Trey's definitely influenced by Wagner, and I love a lot of composers. Vivaldi would be my absolute favorite composer. Mm-hmm. Actually, a lot of any of the Italian composers, to me, man, they were just over the top, out of their fucking head and just going wild, man. They took it that extra step to just make it unbelievable, as opposed to it just being amazing. It became unbelievable.
Right.
Paganini. Come on. They thought the guy was a devil. He was so over the top. They thought he was a devil. How could I not like that? That's no different than Number of the Beast for me, man.
That's all right.
Yeah, man. But definitely, man. I'm equally as influenced by orchestrated music. Symphony, classical music. I know there are guitars and there are strings and there are things like that, but it's not a predominantly guitar-driven music, you know. I do like other things like flamenco and stuff, although it's not something I can wrap these fingers around whatsoever.
Sure.
You know, but I do enjoy it a bit.
Describe now. I'm gonna paint the picture for you, and I want you to paint a picture for us. Describe the local music scene where you were initially becoming a musician in your own mind. You were playing in bands, you were doing gigs, shows,
Right.
whatever. Describe the scene. Where was that? Who were you playing with? Who were the other bands?
Right.
Where were you playing?
Man, I'm from Cincinnati, and from Cincinnati, man, there was quite a few musicians. There's not a lot of bands necessarily from Cincinnati, but there's quite a few musicians, and I had my own band, you know, playing originals by the time I was 16 years old. I had a band called Merciless Onslaught, and I was the leader of the band, and I told everybody what to do and was probably a psychopath to everybody involved, you know. But, like, I kind of had this idea of what I wanted to do, you know, and I guess I was pushy about it, you know, and I mean, it is what it is, man. But at the time, there were a lot of bands locally, man. There were a lot of the guys that were playing with me locally left just like I did. There were the local bands. There was a band called Threshold. The drummer in Threshold ended up going out to California and being in a band called Skin Lab, who was signed to, I don't know, Century Media, I think. Maybe they're still going. One of my better friends, a guy named Jason Vibrooks, ended up playing in Grip Incorporated with Dave Lombardo from Slayer, who was like, you know, one of my childhood idols. Of course, I mean, I played in a band with Pat O'Brien, who ended up in Cannibal Corpse. I ended up in Morbid. So really, Cincinnati, I mean, the scene in Cincinnati is kind of a funny thing, man. In Cincinnati, everybody says, you can't do that. Everybody in Cincinnati says, why are you smiling? Why are you happy? What the fuck is your problem? You know what I mean? You know, Cincinnati's a working class city. It's not a city that stars come from, man. It's not a city that genius necessarily comes from, according to most people, but they're full of shit.
Okay.
You know, it's a place where a lot of amazing musicians come from. You know, when I was a kid, the big musician locally was a guy named David T. Chastain. You know, he's a Yngwie Malmsteen type shredder. You know, and the first time I ever met Pat O'Brien, he was a rhythm guitar player, second guitar player in that band.
He played with Chastain, really?
He did. He toured with Chastain, man.
Wow, I had no idea.
Ask him about it, man. Ask him about
That's cool, because I remember Chastain.
Yeah, they had the female singer, Leather.
Yeah,
you know, man. And,
yeah,
man, he was the kind of touring guitar player that kind of, you know, was told probably, I don't know this, but was probably told to stand back a little bit in the shadows and let David T. Chastain be the, you know, the hero that he is, man. You know, but... You know, bands like that, to me, you know, I mean, seeing them guys just on stage at the local venues like Bogart's and some of the free concerts in the park and things like that, I mean, it made me know, you know, man, you can do it. You know, there's other people around here that do it. And, like, you know, I met Pat, and I remember for years thinking, man, I need to get in a band with that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's just something in me that just knew, man, like, that dude's a badass, and I want to be a badass. I need to jam with that guy. You know what I mean? So I eventually did, you know, and man, to be honest with you, what we did together, I believe, got us both the gigs that we currently have.
There you go.
You know, and I mean, that was, oh man, I'm not even going to say how many years ago that was. You know, but that was, it was a few moons ago, man.
Okay, let's see here. Discuss some highlights of your playing career.
Well, the first things that come to mind, man, are like, you know, playing Wacken. You know, that was just amazing. I mean, there's something amazing about going to a country where you don't even speak the same language, but yet everybody there is singing along to almost every word that you say, and that was pretty amazing. As well, you know, we did like a festival in Denmark called Roskilde, which was, you know, absolutely huge. And I mean, as soon as we finished playing, like Iggy Pop and the Stooges played, which is fucking weird.
That is cool.
You know, it's crazy weird, man, you know, but it happened, man. You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, I mean, man, you know, for me, some of the groundbreaking things were, you know, I mean, just, man, I remember being on the plane the first time I was on my way to Europe and thinking, holy shit, how did I go from Price Hill, which is a neighborhood I grew up in, to this, man? I'm on my way to Europe to play in front of people, man. You know, I mean, it's something I'd been dreaming about, like I said, since I was maybe 7, 8 years old, man, when I seen that band doing their sound check, doing Paranoid.
Right.
Something I always wanted to do, and I was on my way to do it, you know, and like, just profound moment, man. And I think I've had lots of profound moments. I mean, I'm back in Morbid Angel after, you know, 13 years, and to be honest with you, there's been some pretty profound moments again. I mean, here I am in a vocal booth singing songs again, and looking at Eric Rutan, who, you know what I mean, was in Morbid with me, and my great friend, a guy that, you know, I see as a brother, and over there's Trey, and man, how did I get back here again? I mean, this whole thing is just a mind-boggling journey.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of unbelievable. I mean, if you knew the situation I come from and where I grew up and the way I grew up, it's pretty astonishing that this has all even happened to me, man.
Well, all of those things probably shaped it.
They definitely did. They definitely made me who I am, man. A lot of people, you know, they say, a good friend of mine said, man, this just sounds furious. Talking about a Morbid Angel album, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He's like, man, it's just menacing, and it's like, man, you know, I think that's all of that influx of my surroundings, man. That's all, it all coming back out. That's my backlash, man. You know what I mean?
Let's see here. Are you proficient on any other instruments, non-guitar instruments?
No.
No?
Man, I've tried to play drums so fucking... I mean, I wish I could be a drummer.
It's frustrating.
I wish I could be a drummer, man. Like, if I could do anything, like, you know, if a genie popped up, man, and he said, you know, you're going to stay in music, but you can do anything you want, I'd be like, man, make me the drummer. You know what I mean? I'd love to be a drummer, man. Those guys are awesome, but, yeah, I don't have that in me, man. I can chew gum and walk, but I can't chew gum, walk, and, you know, keep a beat with my hands. You know, like, it's not something I've ever been able to achieve. Drummers blow my mind, you know, and, man, I have nothing but respect for them, and I've been lucky to play with some amazing ones.
Yeah,
so, like,
have.
But yeah, man, I wish I could play drums, but I don't play any other instrument besides, you know, stringed instruments.
Steve, talk about a turning point at any time in your career. What I'm talking about here is a very, almost like an obelisk, a huge monument where there was before and there was after, and nothing was the same.
Man, I'd have to say when the band I had in my late teens broke up, the band that I was in with Pat O'Brien from Cannibal Corpse, when that band broke up, I decided, man, that's it, man. This is the best opportunity I'll ever have at success in music. And to be honest with you, it wasn't. It was nothing but a turning point.
Yeah.
It was nothing but but an end of one thing and the beginning of a million other things, man. But at the time, to me, it was devastating. It was absolutely, you know, years had been put into this, 6 days a week rehearsing. You know, man, I used to drive an hour and a half to rehearsal every day after I was building houses from 6:30 in the morning until 3:30, and then going home, taking a shower, maybe a quick nap, maybe grab some food, and then drive an hour and a half to rehearsal. And I was doing that every single night, man, because I wanted to, because I couldn't wait to get to rehearsal every night. Mm-hmm. And when that ended, man, I thought it was over.
Yeah.
I thought it was over. I mean, you could have told me I know nobody could pat me on the back and say, buddy, it's going to be okay. I'd punch them in the face, man. Get the fuck away from me. Yeah. You know what I mean? But they would have been right, man. It was just a beginning. I mean, it was, you know, the guy I spoke of, Jason Vibrooks, that ended up in Grip, man, when Ceremony broke up, man, he took that Ceremony demo when David left Morbid Angel, and he sent it to Morbid Angel's management and got a ball rolling, man. That wouldn't have happened had Ceremony continued, because had Ceremony continued, I wouldn't have left my band to join Morbid Angel. Mm-hmm. I mean, even though Morbid Angel, I'm not an idiot. I understand that Morbid Angel was here and we were beginning, but I'm a loyal dude. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't have left my band for Morbid. So really, honestly, it all had to happen the way it happened. You know? And I think it actually, the leveling off that happened because of us splitting up, man. That leveling of me, you know, thinking, man, all this is about to happen, and then it falling apart, it kind of leveled me out, man. And maybe I kind of needed leveled out. You know what I mean? So it was a very good moment.
Most young males in this country in their late teens need a little leveling.
Agreed.
God knows I did.
Agreed. I mean, you know, I was young, dumb, and full of cum.
Yeah, there you
know
go.
I mean? Like, you know, thought I had the world by the balls, man. And to be honest with you, it was all just beginning. I didn't have a clue, man.
That's a wonderful thing, actually. Discuss your current gig.
Well, I've got 2 current gigs. Okay. I mean, I'm back in Morbid Angel, and we're finishing up an album right now, and actually leaving tonight to go on tour. Morbid is what it is, man. It's legendary. For me, Morbid's fun, man, because, I come in, I do my part, I have my part, and Morbid is its own machine, man. Morbid Angel just exists and keeps going and is this entity that really is a part of, Trey, man, and I just enjoy being a part of it, and I've always really enjoyed and loved the things that Trey and I created together. I think, it's nothing like what Trey and, David, the other singer from Morbid, created. It's something different. I bring something different out in Trey, and he brings something out in me, man. I mean, but it's good stuff to me. It's always been good stuff and stuff I've always been very proud of. So with Morbid, man, I'm really just, I'm stoked to be a part of it and get to go out and see, people I haven't seen in years and play songs I haven't played in years. I mean, we talk about these songs sometimes, how long it's been since this album came out, man. It's way longer than I even want to think about. But to get to play them again, man, it's great. It's very enjoyable. And of course, my other gig is Warfather, and that's my band. I mean, I front the band. I play guitar, sing, and pretty much control every aspect of the band, and that's exhausting. That's exhausting. I mean, it's a battle. Everything with that is a battle. It's a battle to get the money to do an album. It's a battle to get the money to have money to survive while doing the album, et cetera, and but it's mine. Mm-hmm. So, I enjoy it. Plus, man, it's fun. It's fun to play guitar. I played guitar since I was, 7, 8 years old or whatever. And in Morbid, man, I play bass. And it's great to play bass and be the singer and hold down that solid foundation. I really actually enjoy it a lot. But the guitar, man, I get to do I get to do solos, man, which that's a whole other element musically and emotionally that gets to come out in Warfather that other people express in Morbid, not me. I handle the vocals and that emotion, the emotional context of all that. But solos, you can go a little more melodic and be quote unquote prettier at times and show kind of a different side of you. So I really right now, man, I can't say that I would want to be without either thing at the moment.
That's cool. And why should you?
Right. There's time for both. I mean, right now it's all Morbid. It's all Morbid.
Where and how often do you perform? Tell us about the tour.
Well, I mean, starting tomorrow, I perform just about every day. We'll go out for 5 weeks, and I think in those 5 weeks we have 5 off days. So essentially, we're doing 6 shows a week, and it's probably going to be about that for most of the rest of 2017, and I would say the better part of 2018. Mm-hmm. Personally, in the past 13 years or so since I left Morbid Angel, I've probably done 10 shows altogether. Mm-hmm. I've done some albums, I've done some projects here and there, but as far as going out and touring, it's not been part of my agenda. Now I'm freer to do these types of things, so I'm really looking forward to playing. I mean, the live thing, man, that's always, how could I say it? That's the magic. So, that's the first thing I seen that got me, that's the magic. So, you're up there, man, it's alchemy, man. You know what I mean? You're turning nothing into music and
takes
sound.
You back to the back room in that arcade.
It does. It absolutely does, man. I hopefully, man, we're doing a sound check or playing a song and there's some young kid out there that thinks, man, I want to do that.
Yeah. So the tour that you're starting tomorrow night in Orlando, mm-hmm. correct?
Yes, sir.
Pretty extensive U.S. tour.
Yeah, I mean, it's 5 weeks, and we go up the East Coast, across the top of United States, and then down the West Coast and back across, back to Florida. So, I mean, it's, like I said, it's 5 weeks, 6 shows a week or so.
Plans for other parts of the world? Or?
Yeah, we're supposed to go to Europe in the mid-July. We're going to Europe to do, European festivals, which, that's not something that too many people in America are too familiar with, but yeah, man, lots of big festivals. Again, Wacken, I haven't done Wacken in 20 years or some shit, so
yeah.
I mean, some big festivals, going to Sardinia. I've never been to Sardinia. That'll be interesting.
Cool.
I think everywhere else I pretty much have been, but hey, man, I love Europe, so I'm looking forward to it quite a bit.
That should be really
Then hopefully later in the year, man, or beginning of 2018, we'll be doing the, all the fly-in stuff. South America, Japan, and the Far East, man. That's a whole new death metal crowd out there. So, we'll be all over the world, man. Morbid Angels should be pretty much everywhere.
Any non-musical ventures you'd like to discuss? Anything that you spend some time with, maybe you're passionate about, that doesn't have anything to do with music?
Man, I spent 10, 13 years doing that sort of thing. Right now, all I give a shit about is music, man. I do have an agenda right now. My agenda right now is fully music. My agenda is 100% about playing with people that I like, playing with people that I enjoy. Man, there's lots of great musicians out there that I've known for years that, hey, man, let's do a song together. And, man, that's for the rest of my existence. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to jam with as many people as I can, do as many projects as I can, and just really enjoy being a musician, man. I mean, it's honestly, I'm extremely lucky to be in this position to be able to do this and get to play and know all these other cool people. So, I mean, why not take the opportunity, by the leash and just drag it along, man, and do some other stuff. So, really, that's my agenda. As far as outside of that, man, I mean, no, I did a lot of stuff for years, man. You know what I mean? I was doing carpentry, and I was doing, I was making things and having fun, dabbing in and working with other bands as far as on a production level and things. And, man, it just, I don't know, man. It's not as enjoyable to me as that magic of making music, getting up on stage and doing that. So that's what I plan on doing from here on out.
I'm going to ask you an additional question real quick here.
Sure.
You talked about playing with people that you like. Tell us about the other guys in Morbid outside of yourself and Trey.
Well, there's two new guys in Morbid. There's a new guitar player named Daniel and a drummer named Scotty Fuller. And, Scotty's young, man. It's kind of funny. Scotty is, I think, man, I don't even know how much younger he is than me, man, like 15 years or something. And it's really weird, man, but he's a phenomenal drummer. And it's funny, like, I took influences from bands like AC/DC and Slayer and Metallica and, all the other thrash bands out there, Creator and Sodom, all these bands. I took them in and, I turned them into something that they probably think's obnoxious, like, well, Scotty did it too, Scotty was influenced by, these bands, and he was influenced by Morbid, and, like, what he's doing, like, his generation, man, his drumming is just, to me, it's completely next level,
Right.
And I mean, and Daniel, man, he's a really interesting guy, man. He was born in Russia, in the USSR, under communist rule.
Daniel's last name is?
It's Vadim Van.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which, it's Russian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I mean, like, just hanging out. I mean, man, just hanging out with this guy. Some of the stories this guy tells you are just absolutely mind-blowing, He's literally, man, started off in a different world. Mm-hmm. Communist USSR and, United States in the, 80s are about as far from each other as you could possibly get on this planet, as far as opinion and as far as, location,
Sure.
So he's from another world, man, but, it's the funny thing about music, you get in a room and we all come to the same page and lock in together, man. So, I mean, it's interesting, man. It's really interesting to be involved with Morbid Angel, with two people that I'm really coming into it was not familiar with. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, there's other elements that kept it glued together. Like, I mean, we were working with Eric Rutan,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't be more familiar with Eric.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there was that comfort kind of leveling off this newness, so somehow it all gelled together, man, and it's all working, and I'm really happy with what we got going on, man.
Cool. You don't have to answer this question. Do you work a regular job?
I did.
Yeah.
I don't right now. I mean, luckily, Morbid Angel is a band that makes enough money that, I can pay all my bills, and, you know what I mean? Luckily, before that, man, I was doing carpentry, man. I was remodeling businesses. I was doing light commercial carpentry, doing shop installs, cash wraps and things like that, where you check out at a store.
Sure,
I was the one putting all that stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man. I mean, but now, I wouldn't have time.
Right.
I've been in Florida the past 6 months. I've been here 5 months.
Right.
So, yeah, I really wouldn't have time to do much more. Luckily, with Morbid, as I said, there's money there to pay bills. Discuss
your practice regimen, if you have one.
My practice regimen at home and my practice regimen, while in tour mode are a bit different. In tour mode, man, it feels like I'm always warmed up. You know, I mean, and it seems like I'm just randomly playing all the time. You know, I could be just sitting around. I mean, and I just pick up a guitar or I pick up a bass and I'm just playing all the time. It seems like I never get to a point of not being warmed up on tour. At home, I actually am more of a stickler for sticking to my regimen, which is to, pick up usually guitar. I usually will start with a guitar, finer, more detailed, you know what I mean? So I have to be more precise. And I start with some string exercises, some finger exercises to get my finger warmed up, and then I go to some string skipping exercises. I spend about probably 45 minutes to an hour warming up, and somehow at some point in there, it rolls into jamming. Mm-hmm. You know, it goes from a warm up into just jamming, and then I'll spend maybe an hour working on what I need to work on, as if I'm rehearsing a set, or if we're writing songs, I'll work on the songs that I need to, but I have to make myself get up, get my coffee, have something small to eat, take care of my dogs so that they're cool, and then start that warm-up. Mm-hmm. And I have to do it. If I skip one step, it doesn't happen.
Right.
I end up sidetracked out the door. I'm at the park with my dogs, something like that. You know what I mean? But I make myself every day stick to that regimen of at least a minimum of 45 minutes of just warm-ups, of string exercises. I mean, I do a lot of string exercises. It's sort of a combination of some Steve Vai techniques that I seen for warming up, some things that the first guy that ever showed me how to play guitar did, some chromatic stuff, and then going into, some scales and extending the scales. And, like I said, some string skipping, man. That's always been a part of what I like on guitar is, some string skipping stuff. So spending quite a bit of time, doing all that. And then, like I said, it just turns into a jam session, man, a writing session, whatever it needs to be.
Steve, at what point did you think you could make a living at music?
Never.
Never?
Never. I still am like looking for a job just to make sure everything's covered, not really. I mean, but I never thought this would happen, man. I mean, did I want this to happen? Absolutely, man. But as I said, man, I was building houses in the sun and the heat and the snow and the ice. I mean, I'm not from Florida, man. I'm from up north. You know what I mean? So in the wintertime, I was in the ice. And in the summertime, I was in the blistering sun. And I was building houses for 8-9 hours a day, 12 hours a day sometimes, and then going to rehearsal every night. And the whole time thinking I can't wait till I get to rehearsal. So whether I had to do that or not, I'd still be doing this.
Very cool. Tell us about your favorite guitar.
Man, my favorite guitar is a guitar that I don't have anymore, man. I had a Les Paul. It was a 1975 Les Paul Standard that I got up from a friend of mine named Bob Gaskins, man. And I love that guitar with a passion. Every time I picked that guitar up, I wrote a riff. I can't explain it. I've never owned another guitar where that happened. There was just something about it, whether I plugged it in or was playing it acoustically, without an amp, I wrote a riff. Every time I picked up that guitar, and I mean, maybe at the time I was just flooded with riffs in my mind that were just fighting their way to get out. I don't know if that, what was the case, but all I know is that Les Paul Standard, every time I picked it up, I wrote riffs. It was the most comfortable guitar I've ever played, and I mean, there's nothing I've ever picked up that's compared to that guitar, and I hope one day me and that guitar, we cross paths again, because I'll snatch it back up again in a second.
Very cool. I'm that with my Rickenbacker, the Rick that I just
got.
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
Every single time I touch that bass, I write a riff or melody.
You can't let me play that Scooter. I might run out the door with it, man. You'll be chasing me up by the Wawa. I'll be running with that thing, man. That Rickenbacker is beautiful, man.
My next batch of recordings are almost completely based around that instrument.
That's awesome, man.
And I waited 40 years to buy it. I have no idea why I waited so long to get it.
And I mean, how many have come across your,
Not
table?
many. I haven't had many opportunities that I could take advantage of. So,
man, I actually, when I got that Les Paul, it was off the cuff thing, man. The guy that I got it off of, man, he was at the time, man, he was doing the eBay thing, man. Getting a lot of classic old electric guitars, old Telecasters, old SGs, the Les Pauls, man. All these, even old V's and things like that, man, were just he would own them for a month, man, and sell them on. He'd clean them up. He was actually bringing them back to their standard, was what he was doing. I mean, if he got an old Gibson and it had EMGs in it, he ripped them suckers out. He threw some PAFs in it, and put the proper pick guard back on and brought it back to its original, the way it was meant to be, the way it came out of the factory. And that Les Paul that I got off of him, man, I mean, he had offered me 5, 6 Les Pauls before that. Never one of them was I interested. That one, I played it for 3 minutes and said, I'll buy it.
It's amazing how you bond with an
instrument.
instrument.
Man. It was instant. Just instant,
Talk a little bit about your current rig, strings, picks, tuning, amp.
Right now, I'm using EMG pickups thanks to my friend Scooter, who got me hooked up with EMG. I'm really happy with them, man. This is a new thing for me. I've been using passive pickups for years, but these EMGs, the way we've got them worked out together, man, I'm loving it. I'm playing Blackheart basses, man. These guys are going out of their way to make me stuff that I want to play, stuff that I enjoy playing, and the two basses I'm currently playing were set up by yourself, and man, I couldn't be happier, really, honestly. As far as my rig, I'm actually playing through Alex Webster's old SVT rig, man.
Hey, there's some good karma right there.
I agree, man. The rig's got a shitload of tour dust on it, man, and I'm not wiping any of it off.
You don't want to.
No, I've already told the tech, man, don't you take a single sticker off of this shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's all legend. It all stays. It's part of the magic for me, man. So we just add stickers. We don't take away. You know what I mean? It's a SVT. What is it? The SVT Mark IV? No, not the Mark IV. I'm sorry. The SVT 4. And yeah, okay. And the 810 cabinet, man. It's something I've always used. I've always used the 810 cabinets, man. You can shoot those things with a shotgun and they still sound badass. They're just what they are. They're roadworthy and road proven, and you can't go wrong with an SVT 810. Damn. The heads, man. I mean, I've used the SVT Classic head. I've used just about everything. I was using Mesa Boogie for a period. Can't even remember what I was using at the time, but always back to Ampeg, man. It never fails. And I use a little bit of a rat pedal in between the bass and the front of the amp, just to make the bass a little growly, not really distorted. I'm not trying to sound like a guitar, but I mean, a bass can sound boomy or a bass can sound gnarly, right. And growly, and I really, I like it to growl, man. I'm a growler, and my bass needs to be a growler,
I actually have another short video I shot, a little tour of one of your green Blackhearts.
Excellent, man.
I'll post on the blog at the same time I post this. Goes through your instrument in a little bit more detail.
Right on, man.
Because there's some detail.
Cool. Detail? I don't even know. I don't even know. I let Scooter take it man.
What one piece of gear, if anything, is essential to your playing? In other words, the one thing other than your body, your hands, you gotta have it before you walk out on stage.
SM58, man.
Yeah.
Microphone.
Yep.
Yeah, every other microphone I've ever sung into besides in the studio, I couldn't stand.
Right.
There's just something about an SM58 that sounds real. It sounds like me, you know what I mean? Like without a microphone. So somehow it delivers everything for me, man. The highs, the lows. As far as playing wise, man, I have to have on wristbands, man, or I can't play.
Right.
Like literally, anytime I don't have a wristband on my picking hand, I am completely uncomfortable and not feeling very confident. So it's the weirdest thing in the world, but a wristband.
Right. I get it. Yeah.
I mean, dude, I can drop my pick and I'm fine.
Right.
I can play with my fingers. Right. You know what I mean? If I have to, I don't necessarily. It's not one of those things. I'm not Alex Webster.
Right.
Not trying to be Alex Webster. We have sort of different roles in our band. You know what I mean? I don't think Alex wants to sing. You know what I mean? So we kind of do the roles that we do. But like, I can handle not having a pick, man. If you handed me another bass, I can still play. You know what I mean? If the strings are a different gauge, I'll adapt pretty quick. Mm-hmm. But man, if I don't have a wristband, I'm not going to be comfortable. So I guess that wristband means a lot to me.
Describe your proudest moment as a musician.
Oh, man. My proudest moment, man, there was one time at a show where all of my family was there, man. Like my son, was there. My daughters were there. I have 2 daughters and a son. My mother was there holding my son. Just my whole family, my aunts and uncles were all, at the side of the stage, and that was it was emotional for me, man. I mean, I don't know. It was I was proud, and at the same time, like I wanted them to be proud. You know what I mean? So I probably went way too hard and way too crazy, man. Even I got super intense probably, but man, it was hard to not be emotional about it. You know what I mean? I was. And it was in an arena, dude. We were doing a Pantera tour, so here I am in front of 15,000 people with my people right there smiling. You know what I mean? It was great. It was just wonderful for me, man.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it.
That's a good one.
Yep.
If given the chance, what non-musical profession would you be interested in?
Man, I'd want to be... There's 2 of them, man.
Okay.
I would either like to be a ref in soccer.
Okay.
I would love to be a ref, or I'd love to be a color analyst in American football.
Okay.
In the NFL, I'd love to be an analyst and just sit and talk about how sloppy people are playing while they're beating the shit out of each other. I think it would be the most amazing job in the world. Just talk about how they're not making effort when they're like, going against 400-pound guys. I mean, it would be...
If Dennis Miller can do it,
yeah,
sure,
man.
Why not?
I have to say this. Man. Maybe I'm a little cocky, but I'm not the most cocky guy in the world. But I think I could do a better job than Dennis Miller.
I would say you probably do at least as well as Dennis.
I think I'm every bit as funny, so,
Yeah. All right, we're getting down to the last question number 20 here. What beloved legendary artist that hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions of people the world over, worship this artist? Whoever this artist is, they're beloved and legendary, and you just don't get it.
Most of them. Honestly, most of them. I mean, there's way too many to name. and then there's way too many to name of guys who I don't understand why they're not, that they don't have that same love from people.
Yeah, that's never come up before. That's another interesting twist of the question. The people that should be beloved and legendary and for some reason aren't. I would put King's X on that list.
King's X? Okay.
Absolutely fantastic.
It's a great band.
Wonderful band.
Yeah. We share management, man.
A lot of people don't know who the hell they are.
Yeah, but man, I mean, that's a 3-piece band that everybody, every bit as good as a Rush.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know too much about the drummer. I know Neil Peart gets mad props, but Rush, perfect example. It's a band that everybody loves, man, and I can come.
You just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, I like Triumph. I think Triumph's maybe, like a better Canadian 3-piece than Rush to me, but...
Very different band.
That's just to me, man.
Yeah.
That's just to me. That's not to the masses.
Yeah, that's what that question is geared to. This is an opinion question.
Sure. I mean, for me, man, I think I've always liked a little bit less known, so to speak. I mean, dude, there was a time when people used to want to fight me because I liked Metallica and Slayer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And, they couldn't accept that. Both became quite acceptable. Mm-hmm. Before Injustice for All, literally, there were people that I knew in my neighborhood who wanted to fight me because I liked that bullshit. A year later, the video for One comes out, and everybody's wearing a fucking Metallica t-shirt.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying that I'm smarter than them, but I probably am. I knew I knew way sooner than they did that this was going to be a band that was going to blow up and be huge. And then there's other bands who I thought would blow up. I just never did.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bands out there, man, one and done.
Yeah.
And you hear these albums and you think, man, these guys are, they're going to take over the world. And then they disappear, and then a band like fucking Pearl Jam blows up. And you're like, what? This guy sounds like he's moaning to a turtle. What the fuck, man? This is...
My wife is going to want to kiss you. She Pearl Jam frustrates her because... musically, there's a lot going on there, but she can't understand why Eddie Vedder is so.
Eddie Vedder sounds like he's stuck in a tub of butter or something, gurgling, and I don't even know what the hell he's going on. I can't stand him, man.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah, right on.
Well, that's 20 questions today.
I think it was 21, but we're good.
Well, we slid 1 or 2 extras in there.
That's cool.
Once again, everybody. Morbid Angel on tour this summer. The new record is coming out when?
Before the year's up.
Before the year's up,
Yep.
look for a new Morbid Angel record. It's in the can. And you guys will be touring all over the country this summer.
All over the world, man.
All over the world.
All over the world. It's coming. We're coming. You know.
Once again, everybody, Steve from Morbid Angel. Go and find the stuff. It's really good.
Thanks for
Steve,
your time, Scooter.
Thanks very much. Have a good one.